I texted, "My son is in the emergency room." My mom replied, "We're busy with Sophia." Then she insulted my son, which made me cancel all their mortgage payments, their car loan, and every single one of their credit cards. Standing in the hallway of the house where I grew up, I glanced at the wall covered in framed photos, my sister's graduation, her wedding, the birth of her first child. In every one, my parents were beaming with pride. There wasn't a single picture of my own achievements. A familiar knot tightened in my stomach. After 35 years, I thought I'd be used to it by now. From the kitchen, my mother's voice floated to me. "Emily, is that you? Come help me with these dishes." I paused. I didn't come here to do dishes, I came to set boundaries. I walked into the kitchen to find my mom hurriedly arranging appetizers for Sophia's celebration. Of course, my sister had just been promoted to department manager at a local bank, a job she only got thanks to my father's connections. "Can you finish these while I get ready?" she asked, already wiping her hands on a towel. "Your father picked the wrong crackers. Sophia likes sesame, not plain." I nodded and took her place at the counter. It was always the same, just a different occasion. My phone buzzed. Olivia, my ex-sister-in-law, had messaged me. "Did you tell them yet?" she asked. I hadn't. "How do you tell your parents you're cutting them off financially after years of supporting them? How do you explain that their only grandson just did a family tree project and didn't include them?" The front door slammed and heavy footsteps echoed. "Emily," my father acknowledged without looking at me. "Where's your mother?" "Sophia will be here in an hour." My chest tightened. "She's getting ready." He nodded briefly and walked into the living room without another word. I silently arranged the crackers, thinking back to all the times I'd stood in this very kitchen, hoping for their approval that never came. My full scholarship to UCLA, my promotion to senior analyst, the birth of my son, Daniel. Nothing was ever enough to shift their focus from Sophia. She'd always been their miracle child, the one they had after years of heartbreaking miscarriages, the daughter they had almost given up on. I was just the practice run. My whole life had been spent trying to earn what she received without effort, their admiration, their attention, their pride. When Lucas left me for a coworker 3 years ago, I thought my parents would finally step up. Their daughter, suddenly a single mother, surely needed support. But instead, they questioned if I was the one responsible for the failure of the marriage. "Did you focus too much on your career? Did you neglect your duties as a wife?" They didn't offer help. Lucas's parents did. Olivia and Ethan, no longer my in-laws but still my real family, were there for me. They picked up Daniel from school, took him on weekends when I had to travel for work, and showered him with love and attention. Meanwhile, my own parents had been too busy until 6 months ago. That sudden change took me by surprise. Out of nowhere, they started calling every week to ask about Daniel, inviting us to Sunday dinners, offering to babysit. I wanted to believe it meant something. Maybe they had finally realized what they had missed all these years. Maybe they had decided to actually be present as grandparents. But then Sophia's promotion came and everything became clear. They hadn't changed. They just needed money. My mom returned to the kitchen, now wearing a new blouse I had bought for her. "Did you finish the appetizers?" "Sophia will be here any minute." I nodded, sliding the tray toward her. "We need to talk." Her expression instantly shifted, excitement turning into unease. "About what? Can it wait until after the event?" It could, but I wasn't going to wait. "I'm cutting off all financial help," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Her face drained of color. "What financial help?" she asked, as though she had no clue. As if I hadn't been covering their car loan for half a decade. Or paying for the roof replacement last summer, the property taxes, the Hawaii vacation, everything. My hands trembled slightly, but I pressed them against the counter to steady myself. The car loan, the credit cards, the house insurance, everything. She stared at me, mouth opening and closing, trying to find the words. "Why would you do this? After everything we've done for you?" I couldn't help but let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Oh, and what exactly have you done for me? You raised me, you made sure I had food, basically the bare minimum." She was trying to claim credit for just being a parent. When Lucas left, who actually supported me? When Daniel was sick and had follow-up appointments, who stepped in? When I got my promotion, who acknowledged it? Not them, never them. My father appeared in the doorway, his brow furrowed. "What's going on here?" My mother turned to him, her voice rising in indignation. "Emily says she's cutting us off financially after everything we've done for her." His face darkened. "Is this about that situation?" he asked. "We already explained." "No," I said, "it's about everything." The words tumbled out of me, years of disappointment, neglect, and realizations finally breaking free. "It's about Daniel calling Olivia grandma because she actually treats him like one. It's about you both skipping his birthday to go on Sophia's vacation. It's about me needing emergency surgery and you refusing to pick up your own grandson because Sophia had a dinner 3 weeks ago. I'd been rushed to the ER with appendicitis, barely conscious from the pain. The only clear thought I could form was that Daniel was alone at after-school care, waiting for someone to pick him up. My first instinct had been to call my parents. Of course I did. My mother answered, her tone dripping with irritation. "We're at Sophia's promotion dinner," she said. "Can't Lucas get him?" Lucas was in Seattle with his new wife. I barely managed to explain through the fog of pain. "Well, we can't leave now. Sophia would be devastated." And then, the final blow. "He's just so much work sometimes. A burden. My child. Their grandson. A burden. But Olivia?" She picked up immediately. Dropped everything. Not only did she pick up Daniel, but she stayed by my side in the hospital overnight, rearranging waiting room chairs into a makeshift bed for him to sleep on. That's when it hit me, the difference between obligation and love, between blood and real family. My father's voice yanked me back to the present. "You're overreacting. We couldn't leave Sophia's dinner. You know how much it meant to her. More important than their grandson? Alone and scared? More important than their daughter, rushed into surgery?" "I'm done," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "No more financial support. No more pretending. You don't get to use me when it's convenient and discard me when it's not," I added. My mother's face crumpled, not with guilt, but with calculation. "The car payment is due in a few days, and your father's medication. Sophia's new salary could cover it. Or maybe they could finally dip into the retirement savings they'd been hoarding while I financed their lifestyle. Not my responsibility anymore." The front door opened, and Sophia's cheerful voice rang out. "Mom. Dad. I brought champagne." That was my cue to leave. I grabbed my purse from the counter. "Emily, wait." My mother's voice rose with desperation. "You can't do this to us." But I could. And I was. I walked past Sophia in the hallway, catching a flicker of confusion in her eyes. "Emily? I didn't know you were coming to my celebration." I wasn't. I had only come to pull away my last emotional investment, the final traces of care for people who had never truly seen me. "Congratulations on the promotion," I said, my tone genuine. Sophia's achievements had never been the issue. The real problem had always been our parents' inability to acknowledge both of their daughters. A moment of uncertainty crossed her face. "Thanks. Are you leaving already?" I nodded briefly, too choked up to say more. Let them offer the explanations. Let them deal with the consequences of their own actions. The drive home felt surreal, like I was drifting through a fog. Tears welled up, but they weren't from sadness. They were from relief. The weight I had carried for so long, trying to earn love that should have been unconditional, had finally been lifted. Daniel was with Olivia. My former mother-in-law had sent over pictures, Daniel covered in baking flour, pure joy radiating from his face, happiness in every shot, love that was real and unfiltered. Family isn't about duty. It's not about shared blood. It's about the ones who stay, the ones who accept you exactly as you are. 3 months passed. No phone calls. No manipulative messages. Just silence. Then, on a regular Tuesday afternoon, my phone lit up with my mother's name. I hovered over the decline button, but curiosity won out. I answered. "Emily," she said, her tone stiff, each word carefully selected. "We need to talk about this situation." The situation meaning their financial troubles without my help. "There's nothing to discuss." A pause. Then, her voice, laced with resentment. "Sophia refuses to help us. Says we need to learn to handle our own expenses." The bitterness was clear in her voice. "The car was taken away yesterday. The mortgage is 2 months overdue. Not my problem. Not anymore." "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied, and a small part of me truly was. The part of me that had been conditioned to believe their well-being was my responsibility. "You can't just leave us like this. We're your parents." "Biologically," I said. "Not emotionally. You never fulfilled the role of parents in the ways that mattered." "I have to go. Daniel has soccer practice." "Emily, don't." I ended the call and blocked the number. Across the kitchen, Daniel was focused on his school project, a family tree. "How's it going, kiddo?" I asked, leaning in. At the top, he had drawn Olivia and Ethan, labeled Grandma and Grandpa. Below them, under my name and Lucas's, were Mom and Dad. And at the bottom, himself. "No Sophia. No maternal grandparents." Carefully, I asked, "Is this everyone in our family?" He nodded, certain. "These are the ones who love us." Simple. Profound. True. That night, after Daniel fell asleep, I sat on the back porch with a glass of wine. A cool breeze brushed against my skin as I reflected on inheritance. Not money, not property, but the emotional inheritance passed down through generations. the beliefs about love, about worth, about relationships. My parents had inherited their own wounds, their own flawed idea that love is something you earn, that children are indebted to their parents instead of being cherished by them. But cycles don't have to repeat. Patterns can be rewritten. Daniel would inherit something different from me. The unshakable truth that love isn't a transaction. That family is chosen. That the most important thing is just being there. My phone buzzed with a message from Olivia. Ethan's making his famous chili this Sunday. You and Daniel coming? A smile touched my lips as I typed back. Wouldn't miss it. This was my legacy now. Not guilt, not obligation, but choice, connection, love, given freely, received wholeheartedly. For the first time in my life, I felt truly abundant in what held real meaning. As I gazed back, I could now see the pattern with perfect clarity. The relentless pursuit, the constant struggle, the desperate yearning to be acknowledged. My sense of worth had always been defined by their validation. Or, more accurately, the absence of it. Every milestone was a silent plea. Notice me. Care about me. Acknowledge me. The walls of my childhood room had once been adorned with academic certificates, spelling bee awards, and math competition trophies, all gathering dust while my parents cheered for Sophia at her soccer games, her dance recitals, her unremarkable school events. When I was accepted into UCLA with a full scholarship, my father merely scowled at the acceptance letter. California? That's too far away. Who's going to help your mother around here? Not Sophia. Never Sophia. She was too absorbed in being the center of their universe. But I left anyway. I worked through graduate school, built a career in finance, and eventually reached a point where I no longer needed anyone's help. Then I met Lucas. Charismatic, confident Lucas with his warm gaze and his uncanny ability to make me feel like the most important person in any room. His family welcomed me instantly. Holiday gatherings where my thoughts mattered. Weekend cookouts where my voice was heard. Olivia, his mother, would call just to check in. Ethan, his father, showed me how to change the oil in my car. It was unfamiliar, this effortless acceptance, this genuine interest in me. When we got married, my parents found something to complain about in everything, the venue, the date, the menu. Sophia, standing beside me as my maid of honor, had seemed utterly uninterested throughout the ceremony. My parents left early, citing Sophia's early morning appointment the next day. Lucas's parents stayed until the very end, helped clean up, and embraced me as though I had always been a part of their family. Daniel's birth should have changed everything. He was their first grandchild. But they visited once, briefly, staying less than an hour. My mother held him awkwardly before quickly handing him back. He looks like Lucas, she remarked, as though that explained everything. Olivia and Ethan, however, were different. They brought homemade meals, volunteered to stay overnight during those exhausting first few weeks, and held Daniel for hours so I could rest, shower, and feel like a human being again. Then Lucas left. A text message. Not even the decency for a face-to-face conversation. It was Olivia who found me curled up on the bathroom floor, sobbing. Olivia who packed an overnight bag for Daniel. Olivia who took us both into her home while I tried to process the wreckage of my marriage. My parents? A single phone call. My mother's tone had been disturbingly close to satisfaction. Men don't appreciate women who prioritize their careers. I warned you. As if my ambition had been the problem. As if I deserved to be left. The divorce was brutal. Lucas fought for financial assets but had no interest in custody. He wanted freedom without responsibility. Olivia and Ethan were caught in the middle, torn between their love for their son and their disappointment in his choices. You're still family, Ethan reassured me with unwavering certainty. That doesn't change. Daniel is our grandson. You're his mother. The equation is simple. Simple for them. Impossible for my own parents. Eventually, as legal fees piled up, as single motherhood, full-time work, and the pressure of court proceedings became overwhelming, I turned to my parents. I asked for help. Just temporarily. Just until things stabilized. My father reluctantly wrote a check. Small. Begrudging. Don't rely on this, he warned. We're not a financial institution. Yet, when their car broke down the next month, they reached out immediately. Can you cover this? Just this once? Just until we're back on track. That one request became countless others. Their demands multiplied. My boundaries faded. And deep down, I clung to a foolish, unspoken hope that if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, maybe they would finally care about me the way they cared about Sophia. Pathetic, transparent, desperate. But I couldn't stop. Not until the crisis. Not until he's such a burden. Not until I finally realized the truth. It had never been love. It had always been an exchange. My financial support had merely been buying their temporary attention. Never their affection. Never their real care. That realization shattered something deep inside me. But in that fracture I found freedom. I no longer had to prove I was worthy of love. I already had it. From Daniel. From Olivia and Ethan. From friends who truly cared. From colleagues who respected me. From the family I had chosen, not the one I was born into. 1 week after leaving my parents' house, my phone rang. Sophia's name flashed across the screen. A rare occurrence. We spoke maybe twice a year. Our conversations were always polite, but distant. "What did you say to Mom and Dad?" Her tone was sharp, defensive. "They're spiraling over money," I answered flatly. "No more financial aid. No more enabling. They have their precious favorite. She can step up now." The silence on her end was deafening. Then she spoke. "They think you're being cruel, that you're getting revenge for the past. But was it truly cruel to stop depleting myself for their benefit? Was it truly revenge to finally hold them accountable? For years of emotional abandonment. I'm not punishing anyone," I had stated. "I'm simply finished pretending." Sophia exhaled, a sound both weary and familiar. "They're never going to change, you know? They've always been like this." A rare admission between us. A shared understanding of the roles we had been assigned before we even had a choice. Her as the cherished one. Me as the neglected. "I know they won't change," I had replied. "But I have." Another pause. Then, "Good for you." 2 simple words. Yet perhaps the most sincere thing she had said to me in years. After we hung up, I pondered Sophia's reality. Did she feel the weight of their expectations in a different way? Did being the preferred child come with its own invisible burdens? It didn't excuse how she had contributed to my exclusion, but it gave me insight into why she had. We had both been cast in roles we never agreed to play. Now, months after severing financial ties, I was finally grasping what real freedom meant. Not just liberation from obligation, but liberation from seeking approval from people incapable of offering it. My worth had never been defined by its recognition. My value had never been tethered to their acceptance. I had always been enough. They had simply failed to see it. Daniel dashed into the kitchen, yanking me from my thoughts. "Mom, Grandma Olivia says she's making spaghetti tonight. Can we go now?" Grandma Olivia. A title earned not by blood, but by love, by presence, by a million small gestures of care. "Of course, buddy. Grab your shoes." As he bolted toward the door, a deep sense of appreciation filled me. For this bright, resilient child. For the family we had built from choice instead of duty. For the profound wisdom that had emerged from hardship. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come not from what we inherit, but from what we learn through pain. The drive to break cycles, to be better, to create something new. My parents had shown me exactly what kind of mother, what kind of human I refused to become. And for that, strangely, I was thankful. As I drove toward Olivia and Ethan's house, with Daniel eagerly chatting beside me, I felt something settle into place. The journey, from yearning for approval to finding peace, from searching for validation in others to discovering it within myself, had come full circle. The weight of legacy, the emotional debts, the ingrained patterns, the suffocating expectations. I had carried them for too long, but I had finally let them go. And what remained? Lighter, purer, entirely mine. Family, love, belonging, not transactions, not duties, not desperate attempts to prove I was worthy, but choices, intentional, deliberate, grounded in the quiet certainty that at last, I was exactly where I was meant to be.